we've got a complaint of you out here holding up profanities.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you again. Okay. You have your ID on you?
I don't have
Put your hands right here.
This corrupt police officer made a serious mistake by unlawfully detaining an innocent person. Just watch how the judge later puts him in his place.
Where's Johnny with the other one?
Should be right over here. Thank you.
Yes.
Some guy holding up a sign that says shit is f***ed up and stuff or something.
Still in office.
How are you?
Well, I was doing just fine until just a minute ago. I've already heard you say a cuss word once. So.
What do your other signs say, sir? Sir, what do your other signs say?
What am I doing?
Okay, can I see your other signs?
No, leave my feet away.
Sir, we've got a complaint of you out here holding up profanities.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't let me look at your sign, I'll take you in custody for disorderly conduct.
Otto was soon surrounded by officers who came to confront him about his sign. Otto firmly declined consent to the search and seizure multiple times, which infuriated Sergeant Dial. What happened next turned into a shocking standoff.
I'm not going to tell you again.
I'm not being disorderly.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you again. All right?
I don't consent to any searches or seizures.
Okay. This is offensive to people that are driving by. And families that are driving by.
Yes.
Yes, it's disorderly conduct.
What's the penal code?
It's disorderly conduct.
Can you read that to me?
It's disorderly conduct.
Okay.
You have your ID on you?
No.
Okay.
Now you're failing the ID. I don't have
Put your hands right here.
The situation escalated when the senior officer punched the signs out of Otto's hands. Evidently taken by surprise, Officer Clark instinctively jumped back in fear.
Roll over. Since he's failing the ID, take him to jail for disorderly conduct.
When we're here answering a complaint and you refuse to identify yourself, that is a crime. When you're displaying these signs and people are calling because it's offensive to them, that is another crime. So yes, you have committed a crime. You've committed two.
You didn't warn me.
We don't have to warn you. Ignorance of the law.
I asked you politely to see your signs and you said
I
no.
don't consent to any searches or seizures of my property or my person.
I'm not going to take it.
By laying down on the ground and indicating that he thought his intention was illegal, Otto opted for passive resistance. His message was clear. He wouldn't fight back, but wouldn't comply either.
Is that your cell phone and tripod? If it's not, I'm gonna leave it sitting here. If it is, I'm gonna take it and put it up so somebody doesn't steal it. But if you wanna act this way, I'll leave it sitting here and let somebody steal it.
Why would you do that?
Okay. We don't know whose stuff that is either.
I have a question. What am I being arrested for?
The officer just explained.
Now's not the time to ask questions.
Oh, it is the time to ask questions.
You know what?
Nobody even asked me to identify. All he did is ask me if I had ID, and I don't have ID.
Let me explain something to you, young man. We're not holding court on the side of the road with you, okay?
Well, you're arresting me.
We're not
I
holding
just want to know
court
why.
with you
I
on
just
the
want to
side
know
of the
why I have handcuffs
Any
on.
questions you have, you can ask the jail, or you can ask the court.
You gonna get up?
I can't.
Okay. Roll back over and I'll help you up.
I'm not sure if I can do that either. I would like to see your supervisor right now before you assault me any further. I am being assaulted. I have not committed a crime.
The officer made a questionable threat by saying he would leave Otto's camera at the scene for anyone to take it. This remark only made things worse for the officer.
I have not committed a crime.
Get up.
I have not committed a crime. I can't get up. You're hurting me. You are hurting me.
Then get up.
I cannot get
Then
up
get
like
up.
this. I can't
Get
get
up.
up like this.
They lift you up.
I'm trying to get up. Matt, please.
Get up.
Well, assist me up instead of trying to.
We're trying to help you up.
I cannot.
Lift you
I'm
up.
not trying to be an ass.
Yes,
No, what
I've seen the game before. Roll up to your knees and they will assist you up.
Roll up to my knees. I'm a fat man.
Okay.
Help me to my knees.
We already have one.
Well, help me again.
Now they'll lift you straight
Up on your
up.
feet.
Stand up.
Okay, help me up. I have committed no crime. I have committed no crime whatsoever.
That's not yours. Remember, I asked you earlier. Come on.
So you're gonna leave my shit on the side
Get
of the
in
road.
the
Get my
car.
equipment. Get my equipment. You dude, I'm asking for you to get my. Hey, I've committed no crime.
Unlock your car,
No
please.
crime.
They want to turn this phone on.
I ain't turning nothing off. I'm gonna leave it right like that, put it in evidence.
According to cops, Otto was detained for not identifying himself. However, under the Texas Penal Code, a person is not legally required to identify themselves unless they are under arrest.
If it was his, he didn't want to talk.
I heard it though.
Yeah.
Okay. You know where his car is.
Somewhere up there. If I had to bet.
The law, you're still under arrest for failed ID.
I was under arrest, and then I ID'd, as the code says.
No, the code says when you're legally detained, you're required to ID yourself. You did not.
It specifically says arrested. I didn't do nothing.
What's your phone number?
I didn't do nothing.
Otto took a stand against the injustice by filing a lawsuit against Sergeant Dial and Officer Short for violating his First Amendment rights and malicious prosecution. The sergeant was then taken to a deposition where Otto's lawyer expertly dismantled his defense, leaving him completely exposed.
As I explained earlier, one, it was an officer safety issue because I don't know what the signs are made out of or what they were. They could be used as a weapon. And secondly, we were still investigating whether a crime had been committed, and he was unwilling to show us what the other two signs or what the sign said other than what we could see.
Did you believe that Mr. Knowles had an obligation to give you those signs?
What do you mean, an obligation?
Did you have the right to see those signs?
Well, it's part of our investigation.
Did Mr. Knowles have the right to refuse showing you the signs?
Anybody can refuse anything.
Objection form.
Why did you hit the sign so hard?
Objection form.
Now, you would think that Sergeant Dial, after being 11 years on the police force, would be well versed in his knowledge about the law, but that is not the case. His lack of knowledge was blatantly obvious.
I don't know what your definition of hard and soft is, and that was 5 years ago.
How do you define hard and soft? You can use your own definition, please.
In regards to what?
The level of force that you apply to the signs.
I mean, I don't know how I would describe hitting a sign soft or hard.
Why didn't you use less force when touching the signs?
Objection.
I didn't know I used too much force.
Could you have used less force when touching the signs?
Objection form.
In regards to what? I mean, what was the amount of force that I used?
You said earlier that you conducted an investigation after you arrived on the scene that day with Knowles. What were the results of that investigation?
In regards to what?
In addition to violating Otto's First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights, the sergeant's complete ignorance about the laws surrounding disorderly conduct was painfully obvious.
Did you find anything during your investigation that caused you to arrest Knowles, that caused anyone to arrest Knowles?
Through our investigation, we determined that disorderly conduct had been committed.
How did disorderly conduct get committed?
Due to the verbiage that was on the signs, and we had received complaints.
His lack of knowledge showed that he was not qualified for the job.
If you received the same complaints and those signs had said something different, would Knowles have been arrested?
The same complaints in what? Because the complaint we had was, it was vulgar and offensive.
What I'm asking you is, if the complaints were the same, but the contents of the signs were different, would Knowles have been arrested?
Objection form.
What if the sign said Blue Lives Matter?
How is Blue Lives? There's nothing vulgar about Blue Lives Matter. There's no profanity in Blue Lives Matter.
Are you saying that if the sign said Blue Lives Matter, Knowles would not have been arrested?
I'm telling you that based on the complaints that we received that day, a guy telling me that he was offended by the profanity and vulgar that was being used in the signs.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sergeant Dial couldn't cite a single law that Otto had broken and claimed that the arrest was made simply because someone was hurt by the signs. Clearly, he needs to pick up a book on the Constitution.
If the complaints were the same, but the signs said Blue Lives Matter, would Knowles have been arrested that day?
Objection form.
There's no vulgar or profanity in in the verb or term, the verbiage or term Blue Lives Matter.
Do you think anyone that says a bad word publicly should be arrested?
No.
Why not?
Did someone complain on them, or they just out there just throwing a fit? No complaints. I mean, there's several reasons why we would not arrest someone. I mean, if nobody finds it offensive, then disorderly conduct's not met.
So if the language on the signs had not offended someone, Knowles would have been arrested, or would he not have been arrested?
So you're telling me we didn't receive any calls and nobody complained to us? Would we have arrested Knowles that day?
Correct.
No, we wouldn't have. Not have.
The lawyer held the sergeant's feet to the fire during the deposition, completely controlling it, but the best part was yet to come.
What specifically did Clark say to you about Knowles' prior disorderly conduct?
He was explaining it to Knowles that as I'm walking up, he's explaining it to him that, look, I've already heard you out here cussing at people.
So he was talking to Knowles, not you.
That is correct.
Did any motorists complain about the prior alleged profanities that Knowles said before you arrived?
Well, the one gentleman told me about the signs, and regarding what the people on 911 called in about, I do not recall that.
If anyone complained about verbal language and you didn't hear any allegedly profane verbal language from Knowles at the scene?
I did not hear it, but I heard Clark explaining to Knowles that he has already witnessed it or observed it himself.
The lawyer was ready to ask the question, leaving the officer speechless.
Do you know one word of profanity that Knowles said?
No, I do not.
And you are not aware of any person that was offended by what Knowles said?
No.
The sergeant dug his own grave when he admitted that the arrest was made based on the information on the placard.
Were you offended by the contents of his signs?
No.
Why did you think they were offensive?
The sergeant's mistakes continued to mount as the lawyer focused on the core issue of First Amendment rights.
So you would arrest somebody if a citizen complained about vulgarities?
Objection form.
So a citizen made the police department or dispatch aware that they had used profanities and vulgarities and were...
Been 5 people in your career?
I believe that would be an accurate statement.
Have you observed more than 10 arrests in your career?
I'd probably say I have observed more than 10 arrests in my career.
It is startling that a 10-year police veteran was unaware of the First Amendment. For the whole law enforcement community, this raises a crucial question of what sort of police officers are being trained and produced.
Have you observed more than 25?
That I don't know.
Have you observed more than 30 arrests in your career?
I don't know.
Do you remember any specific details about your training regarding First Amendment rights?
No, I do not.
Are you saying that you don't remember one word from your training regarding First Amendment rights?
Objection.
That is correct. We went over the elements of the Constitution, and I believe the First Amendment is part of the Constitution.
But specifically the First Amendment, you don't remember?
Correct.
Do you remember how long you spent studying constitutional rights?
No, I do not.
Have you had any training related to constitutional rights since you became an officer?
I do not recall.
For someone in such a high-ranking position, this officer's level of stupidity is astounding. How could someone with such a lack of knowledge be entrusted with authority?
What topics have you been trained on since you became an officer?
I don't recall all of them.
Name one.
Accident investigation.
Anything else?
I'm sure there's others.
Where did you receive the training regarding constitutional rights in 2007?
But as when I was in the police academy, is that what you're referring to?
I'm referring to the training that you referred to, that you received in 2007 regarding First Amendment rights.
The Collin County College Police Academy.
And who trained you in constitutional rights?
Could not tell you.
Because you don't remember?
You're asking for the instructor's name? No, I do not remember the instructor's name.
This is the result of failing to get enough instruction on constitutional rights and the First Amendment.
Do you remember anything about the protections provided to citizens by the First Amendment?
No, I do not.
Are you aware that the First Amendment gives citizens what's known as the freedom of speech? Have you heard of the freedom of speech?
I have.
What do you think that means?
Interpretations are a dime a dozen, but basically someone can speak freely.
Following the deposition, the city was compelled to settle the case by paying Otto $25,000.
Does the First Amendment protect a person from being arrested because of what they say?
Objection form calls for legal conclusion.
Do I answer it?
Answer.
I think at times it may.
Has the police department provided you with any subsequent training on constitutional rights since you've been an active officer?
I do not recall.
Have you received any training, guidance, or instruction regarding First Amendment rights while you've been a police officer?
Objection form.
In the police academy, I know we went over the constitutional rights.
But anything since then?
I do not recall.
Next, this sheriff was caught stealing from the government and was thoroughly taken to task by the judge.
Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law.
Corrupt cops often believe they can get away with their abuse of power, thinking their badge will shield them from justice. Today, we will go through the jaw-dropping cases when the very system the cops manipulated turned against them, serving brutal karma right in the courtroom. On June of 2023, the Indiana State Police launched an investigation into Clark County Sheriff Jamey Noel. They found that he had embezzled more than $5 million in taxpayer money. Now, Sheriff Noel was instantly relieved of his duties and accused of 25 offenses. This was just the first step toward his downfall as a corrupt cop.
Date of birth? 12/18/70.
And that will make you how old?
52, sir.
And the last 4 digits of your social security number? Mr. Noel, Special Prosecutor Pearl has charged you with 15 counts of criminal conduct. And I'll go through them. Count 1. Corrupt business influence is a level 5 felony. It would indicate that pursuant to Indiana Code 35-44-1.1-2-1, that on or about a period of time from November the 9th, 2018 and August the 16th, 2023 in Clark County, state of Indiana, you did knowingly or intentionally through a pattern of racketeering activity acquire or maintain, either directly or indirectly, an interest in or control of property or enterprise contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided. Count 2, theft as a level 5 felony. You then personally sold said Hellcat for $83,000, $83,716. Count 4, theft is a level 6 felony under Indiana Code 35-43-4-2A.
Numerous charges were also brought against Jamey Noel's daughter, Casey, and his wife, Misty. It is truly remarkable to see how the sheriff was able to engage in such corruption and yet maintained his position in the agency for such a long time.
On or about August the 16th, 2023, in Clark County, state of Indiana, you did knowingly or intentionally alter, damage, or remove any record, document, or thing with the intent to prevent it from being used, produced as evidence in any official proceeding or investigation, that being you factory reset your phone upon the arrival of the Indiana State Police on your property. You, in your capacity as Clark County Sheriff, public servant, did knowingly or intentionally assign to Rodney Walker, an employee under your supervision, duties that were not related to the operation of the governmental agency that you serve, that being sheriff, assigned Walker duties on your personal property, rental properties, father-in-law's property, pole barn, and property of Utica Fire Department. Count 11. And count 15. Official misconduct is a level 6 felony, would indicate that between November the 9th, 2018 and December the 31st, 2022 in Clark County, state of Indiana, you, a public servant, that being sheriff of Clark County, knowingly or intentionally committed an offense in the performance of your official duties, that being goes to employment as sheriff of Clark County relating to Brent Fisher. Mr. Noel, the first 3 counts are level 5 felonies, which have a range of imprisonment from 1 year to 6 years, with the advisory sentence being 3 years and up to a $10,000 fine. Counts 4 through 15 are all level 6 felonies, which have a range of imprisonment of no time in jail, treated as a misdemeanor, to 2.5 years at the Indiana Department of Corrections, with the advisory sentence being 1 year and up to a $10,000 fine. Do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the potential penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
The next question is, usually you intend to hire a lawyer, but you obviously have counsel seated with you. I need to tell you, you have a right to a speedy public trial by jury in this county. You have the right to face all witnesses against you, severe question and cross-examine these witnesses.
Jamey sat through the proceedings with a complete lack of guilt as the judge systematically read out the 15 counts against him during the hearings. The tension was high in the courtroom as the state attorney made a strong case for his detention without bond. Despite the gravity of the charges, the judge decided to grant bail, but little did he know that this would turn out to be a serious mistake.
His passport to you by noon tomorrow, and then you will surrender it to the court by 4 p.m. next Monday, because it's my understanding the court here is closed tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
He will surrender all firearms except 1 shotgun of his choice to Indiana State Police. Being from the country, or as Mr. Wilder said, Washington County, I keep my shotgun with double aught near me, along with my .45. But I think 1 shotgun for personal protection is appropriate for him to maintain. Will not leave the state of Indiana without permission of the court, and they'll post $75,000 in cash. Mr. Noel, you wanted him released without posting any bond, but it's a unique case, and if you don't like my decision, I'm happy for you to appeal it. It won't be the first time you've appealed me, and the Court of Appeals told you I was right, so I'm happy for you to accept that challenge if you so please. I'm not going to have you report in.
After delivering the announcements, the judge made one thing unmistakably clear, leaving no room for confusion or misunderstanding.
You keep 1 shotgun only. Try to deceive me, you will not like the consequences. Understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And then, Judge, the issue of return of all other items seized, we can just take up in another hearing.
Well, it wasn't set for today, so
No,
yeah, we'll deal with that at another time. I assume now that everything's going to be unsealed, there'll be a lot of new things brought before the court that
yes, sir.
we'll address in due time.
Thank you, Judge.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing else from us, Judge. Thank you.
All right, we'll be off record. Thank you all.
Otto, Jamey was first granted bail. However, his freedom was quite short-lived. When he violated the judge's order, police raided his residence in March and found a stash of hidden weapons. When the judge was called back for another court appearance, he was clearly outraged and did not hold back this time, delivering an uncompromising reprimand.
I told Mr. Noel, don't do anything stupid. Do not try to deceive me, defy me. You will not like the consequences. Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law. I find that you are in contempt of this court. Take him into custody. No, that's enough. I'll find you guys in contempt for disrupting the proceedings, and you'll be there right there with him.
Ironically, Jamey Noel's appearance in A&E's 60 Days In, a series that exposes the inner workings of law enforcement, ended up on the wrong side of the court. During sentencing, the judge made an intentional point of mentioning his feature in the series, highlighting the sharp fall from grace of the former sheriff.
Now, what is an appropriate sanction? The question is, I can sentence him up to 180 days without a trial, or I can sentence him to a day, or I can release him. You know what I think the answer is? 60 days in. That's what I think the answer is today. Now, Mr. Wilder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or Mr. Boyles, I apologize, Mr. Boyles, your lead. Before he is released, I'll take your suggestion. I want an independent individual to scour that household to determine that there's no further weapons. I find that Mr. Ertle's original argument that he was trying to make that I sustained, an officer of the law, every time I go into court, I hear, I didn't know it was there. I didn't know it was there. It really did. You've heard that a million times. You've heard it a million times, and yet you still take them into custody, would be my guess. Every officer in the world has heard, I didn't know it was there. It's my friends. I'm not buying it. It was your burden. It's your responsibility. And today, the court will enforce that. Take him on.
Even though Jamey Noel received a 60-day term, his legal issues are far from over. He is currently facing 31 felony charges, and the outcome of his trial might mean a long jail term. Noel's once powerful position has collapsed into an abrupt fall from grace, and he may spend years behind bars. Well, you will be shocked to hear what this next former supervisor of Border Patrol was facing charges for.
I received a call of a female down. She was face down, lots of blood. No, she was brutally attacked.
On April 9th, 2018, Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, a former supervisor of the Border Patrol, went on trial for the shocking and brutal murders of Griselda Hernandez and their 1-year-old son, Dominic Alexander.
That morning, more or less around 11:30 a.m., I received a call of a female down by Bristol and Riverbank Road, which is located in Mines Road, with lacerations to her head. While en route to that call, my dispatchers informed me that she was possibly deceased.
Okay. And did you proceed to that area?
Yes, sir. Upon arrival, the ambulance, the City of Laredo paramedics, the ambulance was already parked outside. I parked and I walked down to the trail.
Okay, did you come in contact with anybody when you got there?
Yes, while on my way down, 2 paramedics were on the way up, and I asked them more or less, where is everybody? They said, follow the dirt trail, and you'll see the body and you see the USBP agents down there.
Okay. Did you come in contact with a BP agent by the name of Dennison?
Yes, sir.
more than 20 witnesses, including family members, law enforcement officers, forensic experts, and close friends. Officer Alberto Cortez Jr. took to the stand to describe the horrifying scene he received about a woman down with lacerations on her head.
This is where BP units were stationed. 4 to 5 United States Border Patrol agents were located here. And a motionless, lifeless female body was about right here. She was facing eastbound. And upon me being a police officer, secure the crime scene, to look for any evidence that includes anything out of the ordinary. As I began to canvass the crime scene, in better words, I was walking around this grassy on the edge. There was one USBP agent, Agent Ennison, already ahead of me. He was already south. I passed the female body. I did look at her. I observed she was barefooted. She was face down. Lots of blood. Can you hear me? Yes, lots of blood around her upper middle torso on the dirt. And continuing my path southbound, I saw blood drops on the dirt. At this time, Agent Dennison said out loud, "I found another body."
Okay, stop right there.
Okay.
The incident occurred not far from Father McNaboe Park's walking paths off Bristol Road and close to the banks of the Rio Grande. Officer Cortez Jr. described the grim scenes when he discovered the body of the woman lying barefoot and covered in blood.
Is this the type of blood that you saw?
That is correct, sir.
You also said that there was, and you didn't walk on the, where were you walking? Let me ask you that much.
On the grass, where the grass and the dirt meet, right on that.
So you stayed on the
boundary.
edge of the
Yes.
path? You did not disturb the dirt path?
No, sir.
Were you the first officer that arrived?
Yes, that is correct.
You were the first official Laredo police officer to arrive,
Yes.
and this location falls within your jurisdiction?
No. Each officer is assigned a certain area. I got dispatched to be there.
No, but what I'm saying, that's within the city limits.
Oh, yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, so this is within the city limits?
Yes.
What county is this?
Webb County.
So the body's in the city of Laredo and Webb County?
Yes.
Cortez recalled getting an urgent call from another officer at the scene shortly after he ensured that the scene remained uncontaminated. To his shock, the officer had discovered something completely horrifying, intensifying the gravity of the situation.
What was your impression of what had happened?
Any prudent person will see a lifeless, motionless body to come to the conclusion that she was deceased.
But at that time, the opinion as to how she was deceased based on what you're seeing, what you're assessing, are you making an assessment?
No, she was brutally attacked.
You also testified that he said that there was a body.
That is correct.
Okay. What happens at that point? Or what do you do at that point?
At that point, he was ahead of me, southbound. When I heard him say, "I found another body," I walked towards his direction, to his location. He was no longer on the dirt path. He was in the brush. And when I arrived there at the brush with Agent Dennison, I observed a motionless little boy as well.
Officer Dennison discovered another body of a motionless little boy, who was later identified as Dominic. The officer described the heart-wrenching scene as he saw the lifeless body of a 1-year-old lying on the ground.
What you saw?
Of course. Little brown booties, little brown boy booties, blue jeans that were covered in blood, freshly haircut. And what caught more of my attention was the way the body was positioned. He was placed. He wasn't thrown. He was placed. It's as if someone had placed him down.
Did you see any injuries to the baby?
Yes, lots of blood around the neck area, and that came down. I said again, blood on the blue jeans as well.
Okay. recognize this?
Yes, now I remember. T-shirt. Yes, sir.
Did you see any other injuries on the baby? How close were you to the baby?
Standing right over the body.
How many injuries did you observe on the baby at that time?
I only observed one.
That was to
The neck area.
The clothes worn by Dominic were presented to Cortez, who immediately recognized them as the same ones he was wearing the day of the terrible tragedy. It is truly heartbreaking to watch the realization weighing on the officer while the father of the baby doesn't get fazed.
Agent Dennison was in front of you this whole
Yes,
time?
he was with me. Yes, yes, sir.
And you were with him when the shoe was found?
Yes, sir.
And what communication came over the radio that morning?
It was broadcasted. Possible suspect, Burgos. That was broadcasted over my P unit, portable unit.
What was your reaction at that time? But when you heard Burgos, what did that mean? Did it mean anything to you at all?
No, no, sir.
Did Dennison?
Dennison was in close proximity where he could hear the broadcast on my radio.
You have your radio.
Yes, sir.
The name Burgos comes out.
Yes, sir.
It means nothing to you.
No, no, sir.
Do you see a physical change in Agent Dennison?
Yes, sir.
To you, what do you see this physical change?
He was in shock.
Cortez also told the authorities that when he heard the conversation about Burgos being named as a suspect, Officer Dennison was in the area. His reaction, marked with a concerning familiarity, suggested that he was not shocked by the news, but rather that it felt all too normal in the circumstances they faced.
And you saw Mr. Burgos there at the scene as well?
I saw many of them, yes. But sitting here, I recognize him, yes.
And he appeared to be in shock as well as Agent Dennison, correct?
No.
That was not your impression?
No, no, sir.
So you're saying that he appeared to be normal to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
The officer disclosed a startling fact about Burgos. He showed no signs of shock or even remorse for what he did after he arrived on the scene. Now, this next case is the perfect example of how these cops abuse their powers.
He told me that it moved from the fast lane to the middle lane, to the slow lane, to the middle lane, to the slow lane. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So, which was it?
On May 11th, 2017, a police corporal in the Fayette County town of Tyrone approached a parked pickup truck during a routine check. To his surprise, the driver behind the wheel was none other than State Senator Marty Harbin, known for his contentious support of the religious freedom measure from past years.
Our policy, over 30 days of expiration, we have to tow the vehicle.
You serious with me?
Yes, sir.
I'll call it. I won't call Eric Dial, but I'll call the rest of them. But I pay my bills. This will not go over well.
I can tell you can talk to everybody at the department. The car's going to be impounded.
The situation got rapidly out of hand, and when he was pulled over by another officer for driving with an expired tag. When he was told that his truck would be towed, he did not comply. The scenario became more intense because of his blatant attempt to use influence.
Because I'm going to take this, and I'm going to the state, and we're going to change the law.
You're not the only one this happens to. So,
yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying
it's not like
law,
we're picking on you.
The law's wrong in that respect.
Okay.
And I'm not mad at
that's
you.
What I mean. We can't change the law. I mean,
I can't.
That's you.
Harbin was shocked to learn that the police officers are able to confiscate cars for anything as little as an expired tag. To modify what he perceived to be an unduly severe punishment for a relatively trivial error, Harbin had introduced a bill aimed at allowing drivers to drive away from expired tag offenses.
It was moving in the fast lane.
Okay. Was there any movement into other lanes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about that.
The vehicle moved from the fast lane to the center lane at one point in time. And then from the center lane to the curb lane and then back to the fast lane. And then eventually exited the freeway, sir.
Okay. So when you were following the vehicle, it moved from the fast lane to the center lane to the curb lane, back to the center lane, back to the slow lane. Did I get that right?
Something like that, yes, sir.
Okay.
That'd be close.
Okay, so the vehicle changed lanes.
The vehicle did change lanes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And then the vehicle exited the freeway.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you remember speaking with me during an interview a little while back?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you gave me honest answers during that interview?
To the best of my recollection, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember me asking you about the vehicle's movement during that interview?
No, sir, I do. I remember you asking the question, but I don't remember exact particulars, sir.
Okay.
During a tense moment in the courtroom, the officer was asked who had stopped the senator. As the lawyer pressed him, it became clear that the cop's story wasn't holding up.
Do you recall me asking, when you were following the vehicle, did it stay in the same lane the whole time?
I know you asked numerous questions. That may have been one of them, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall your response?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Permission of the court, Your Honor, I would like to play a portion of my interview with Sergeant Pavese where I asked him whether the vehicle, when he was following it, if it stayed in the same lane the whole time.
And Mr. Payne, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Play that portion of the tape, Mr. Noel.
And just going backwards a little bit, when you were following the pickup truck, did it stay in the same lane the whole time?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
When we got closer to that.
Did you hear that, Sergeant?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. So when I asked you, did the pickup truck stay in the same lane the whole time, your answer was, yes, it did.
That is correct. That is my answer.
The lawyer skillfully exposed the lies in the officer's testimony by playing a video of the cop's previous interview regarding the incident in court.
And just before I played that, when I was asking you about whether the pickup truck stayed in the same lane while you were following it, you told me that it moved from the fast lane to the middle lane, to the slow lane, to the middle lane, to the slow lane. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So, which was it?
When I was behind the vehicle, I was in the fast lane the whole time, and at some point in time, as I just mentioned to you, he did move from lane to lane, sir.
Okay. So you don't find anything inconsistent with what you told me here in court and what we talked about?
I could see where you would see that as an inconsistency, yes, sir.
Okay.
The officer was left completely speechless as the lawyer skillfully proved him a liar in court. Each pointed question seemed to damage his credibility, and by the end, he had nothing to say in his defense. This next cop was not owned by a lawyer, but by a judge.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is...
46-year-old Lisette Gonzalez was charged with DUI. However, it was discovered during her trial that the arresting officer had not used a breathalyzer test. The judge was outraged by this wrongdoing and instantly reprimanded him.
I want to be enlightened.
It was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
He testified to that today.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months for nothing. So are you going to no process that case, or am I going to get mad at you today?
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge. This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they. You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
So you're granting it because you don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm
the other
granting the JOA in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Case should have never been done. Never.
Moving on, this auditor was intimidated by this corrupt cop and owned him badly.
You told me this is a court that's got nothing to do with you. Starting there, we're going to be back and you're going to be going to jail.
A courtroom often becomes the worst place for a police officer to be as their crimes are exposed for everyone to see. Today we'll be going through these cases where corrupt and evil police officers were owned in court, starting off with this tyrant who abused his authority.
Dude, the cop comes and totally treats me like a asshole.
In February of 2020, a First Amendment auditor, Derek, was peacefully sitting and observing the court proceedings in a Williams County courtroom when a court deputy came over and removed him.
What's going on?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
So, what's your business here today?
Oh, I'm going to look at court.
Just look at court?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, sitting in there.
Okay, well.
What are you sitting there for?
What am I sitting in there for?
That's why I'm asking.
You told me
this
there was no court today.
This is a court that's got nothing to do with you.
Deputy Royce Crone began intimidating him without cause, treating him as if he had broken the law simply for sitting in a public courtroom.
So you're just wandering around sitting in a courtroom where you don't know anything that's going on?
Yeah, why can't you?
Huh?
What amendment is that? The Fourth Amendment?
I don't know. I'm not going to quote amendments.
So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to sit and watch.
And you're going to be civil. Because if you're not,
was I in there not being civil?
I'm just telling you what's going to happen. No, I'm telling you what's going to happen.
I'm telling you what's going to happen. I'm in there.
I'm telling you what's going to happen.
Hey,
you're going to go in there. If you're going to go in there, you're going to be quiet. Go down here. Go down here.
Let's walk around this corner. Around the corner.
I had no problem with you being in there, but if you're starting there, we're going to be back and you're going to be going to jail.
Didn't I ask you
do you understand what I said? Do you understand what I said?
I asked you.
Do you understand what I said?
I asked you if there was court today and you told me no.
This is a civil trial.
It doesn't matter what it is. I can go in there. That's why there's benches. You can go see it.
It's none of your business.
The deputy has no shame whatsoever as he makes up laws on his own. His aggressive demeanor is only about to worsen as he realizes that the auditor is also well versed in the law.
You can go see it.
It's none of your business.
It's public, so it is my business.
So why did you go to every office?
Why can't I?
Huh?
What's the big deal?
Why is your problem?
Can't I?
Why you?
Because people don't normally do that. They don't come in here and go to everybody's places.
Walk all over the place for no reason at all.
I'm not most people. I'm going in there, and I asked you if there was court today, and you told me no.
Right, there is.
Because I like to go in my not a lot and go watch court. So when is court session for what?
I want to see your identification.
For what law?
I want to see your identification.
What?
I'm
For
asking
what?
you as a peace officer for some ID, so I know
For coming and seeing.
No, because you're in my building.
My name's Derek, and this is our building.
I need your information.
It's our building.
Derek, let's not. Okay, I'm on security here, right? We had security concerns in the past. Okay, that's what we had. You're right, it is public, okay? But when you're going from room to room, that's unusual, okay?
The corrupt officers once again try to use the classic officer safety excuse to deny someone exercising their constitutional right. Shockingly, the deputy had even lied earlier, claiming that court was not in session.
We're investigating a suspicious act in a government building, okay? So if you ask for identification, you do have to provide it, okay?
Okay, and why? I don't understand. Like, I go in there and you pull me out when I'm legally okay to go in there.
We're checking to see what's going on. We're investigating.
I'm legally fine to go in there and watch court.
Make sure
You pull me out? Really?
We're just seeing what your intentions are and what's going on.
For a legally okay act. No, it's not suspicious.
It is to me.
Me and you don't have the same options of what's suspicious. What's suspicious to me is you pull me out of court when I'm in there watching, not being loud. Sir, I let you talk. No, you're not going to shush me. I let you talk. I'm in there watching court and you have me come out here so they can run my ID. I'm in court and I'm sitting and being civil, not making any noise. And I asked you downstairs, was there court today? You told me no. And then you're like, well, it's none of your business. It's public. So it is my business. I can go in there and I can watch.
Derek wasn't going to be an easy target for sure. He continued to grill the deputies who had violated his rights by removing him from a court without the judge ordering them to.
We have security concerns in here. People just don't walk around.
I'm not most people.
I'm talking now. Remember, it's my turn. Most people don't walk around and go to every office and checking out everything. That is not a normal thing to be done. That is suspicious to me. That's why these gentlemen are here, all right? This is a civil trial. You have no reason really to be in there. There's no reason
to be in any courtroom.
Okay?
Watching what's going on.
You're giving me an attitude whenever I ask you something. You might start something in there. I've got a full place full of people.
I'm sitting there being civil and quiet so that your security clearance goes right out the window. I don't understand what your problem is.
You're in my building.
This is our building. This is a public building, not your building.
It's my building.
Public, it's not your building. It is not your building. So quit saying it's my building.
You're in my building.
It's not your building.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I'm security here. It's my building.
It's not your building.
I'm responsible for this building.
Okay, and when I came in,
anybody that's suspicious.
And I'm not suspicious. You are suspicious. Treat me like a criminal when I'm not.
The situation was getting heated, and the poor auditor had every right to be frustrated, as he had been done in by these tyrants who didn't know the law.
Let's go downstairs.
Let's go public right now. All right, let's go.
All right, let's go.
10-4, thank you.
Come on, downstairs.
For what?
Huh? Sworn on instructing this court.
Well, this is a county building.
Okay, and it's public. We know
If
that.
you're not here for court and they don't want you here, they can do that.
If you're trespassing, they can do that. I'm committing a crime. I'm not committing a crime. I'd like to go to court and watch.
But our building, their building, whatever. If they don't want you here, they can be like, time to go.
If you commit it's like trespassing.
You don't have to commit a crime. You don't have to.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Still a county building.
So, if they want you gone, then you have to leave.
The problem is I didn't do anything.
Right.
I gave you my ID and I was nice.
Mm-hmm.
He's more than rude, and you guys are very nice. And I just want to go in there. I want to sit and not like I was. Was I doing anything wrong? I was just sitting in there watching. That I'm okay to do.
Right.
The officers disrespected him and were straight up lying to his face. Now this happens when unchecked authority goes to their head. They think they can say anything and get away with it.
But you're at the point where, like I said, he's the head of this building, so what he says, you kind of got to do it, okay?
So let's get your boss then. Let's get your boss then.
Let's go downstairs.
Is your boss, we're going to go talk to your boss.
Let's go downstairs.
We'll go downstairs and figure it out there, okay?
Take the stairs for us.
My boss, my sergeant, is not here today. Therefore, I am in charge right now.
All right.
Okay?
So I was up there not doing anything wrong. As you know, I don't have that. If you're like, hey, you need I don't need help. They ran my stuff, nothing came back. It tells you that I'm not a criminal. I've never been to court for stuff other than watching stuff in Minot. That's why when I ask, hey, is there any court going on? You're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see the building. I'm from Minot. I'm not from Williston, so let me see the building. That's what I was doing.
The deputies were now adamant about kicking him out of the building. It is bizarre how these cops still have no clue about public and private buildings and how they behave.
So if I got loud, I apologize, but we know that I can go in that courtroom, I can sit there and watch what's going on. It's public record. It's not
My concern
secretive.
is that you've gone to every...
That's fine, because I'm asking
every
questions.
hallway, every office, places where I couldn't see you, and you were there for a while.
And I'm asking questions. Yeah, you're fine.
All right?
You're absolutely
I'm
okay.
asking questions. You're saying that you have no business here, you just want to sit.
Why can't I sit in the court? I'm just watching. That's all I'm doing.
When I first approached you and asked you about this, you copped an attitude with me.
No, I
Yes, you
I
did.
kind of looked at you and I didn't copy
No,
it.
you copped
And I
an attitude.
apologize.
All right?
And I went up there and I was sitting and I was like, okay, well,
I'm going to
it's
give you an
done.
option, all right? You go up there, you can sit.
Okay.
I'm going to be up, it's going to be on camera, all right? I'll be watching. If I get any hint, any slight hint that there's going to be a problem, you will be out of here. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right.
Although he allowed him back into the courtroom to watch the proceedings, his rude tone needed to be addressed. However, getting held accountable for anything just sets this tyrant off.
Are you not used to talking to people?
Oh, I'm used to talking to people. I've been here for over 25 years, man. I know about talking to people.
Did I cuss at you?
Huh?
Did I cuss
Did
at
I
you?
cuss at you?
You just said the F word.
Or you want to start, the way I talk, then you can just leave. If you're going to have a problem with the way I talk, then you can just leave.
Am I being unreasonable here?
Gentlemen, let him out of here.
Am I being unreasonable?
Okay. Yeah, like we said, you got your ID? Brett, you got his ID?
Yeah, back home.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to have to escort you out, but you got to go, man. Okay?
We'll get your lieutenant, or where can I go?
My lieutenant?
chiefs, whoever it is. I did nothing wrong.
Okay.
I was in here just looking around, which is public
like-
property I can do.
Well, this is my sergeant. You want to talk to him? You can talk to him.
I'm the supervisor on the day.
Okay, and I never got an attitude with him. You seen the way he's acting with me. I was not rude.
Shockingly, instead of upholding the law, the officers also followed Deputy Crone's lead and asked the auditor to leave the building.
I can go up there and watch court, and I can sit there and be quiet, and that's what I was doing.
But as head of security for the building here, if he thinks the actions are suspicious, he wants to leave. Listen to me.
Go ahead.
If he thinks the actions are suspicious, he wants to leave, and you don't have a legitimate purpose other than to watch, I'm going to ask you to leave. That being said, if you do wish to file a complaint, there are options for that, and it would be...
So where's the suspicion? Can you show me what is suspicious on a piece of paper?
I've already explained to you why it's suspicious. Okay? You come into a government building, and you walk through...
Public
It's still
property.
a government building.
But it's still public property.
It's still a government building. Okay? You go through a security checkpoint, get in everything, okay? And you start going through offices where we have attorneys, important paperwork, lawyers, everything like that here in this building.
It is concerning to see how much authority Crone seems to think that he has. He has never been held accountable, and it's time that someone takes action and files a complaint.
What is, let's go to public property, right on the sidewalk, because I want to talk to you guys more. What is his fucking problem? And now I'm going to use my freedom of speech here, because come on, guys. We know that I can go in there and look. I'm from Minot. I'm not from Williston, so there's nothing, suspicious about me walking through. I even asked the lady, what's the difference between municipal and district? And I asked him, hey, is there any court today? In her office, and he told me no. If he said, yeah, there's court on the 3rd floor, okay, then I'm going to go to court on the 3rd floor and sit there and watch like I was doing.
I mean, there's no city court today. Maybe that's kind of the side of that. But either way, I understand. Yes, you can do court. But I just want you to see my point when I say this is suspicious activity, okay? It's unusual. We don't have that usually.
Of course you don't.
Yeah, so that's why we're checking on it.
Yes, of course.
Derek had been respectful throughout the altercation, but seeing how things turned out for him, he had every reason to hurl profanities. It is really tough to handle a tyrant like Crone when they violate your right.
You see, he just said... Come on, guys. I'm not doing anything wrong. So now I'm going to go get my camera and I'm going to sit here on public property, which we know I can do, and record in there because this is public property. So if he gets an attitude with it, let's be real here. It is public property. This is public. This is public property. I was doing nothing. Like, this is my problem, right, guys? You ran my ID. I've never done anything wrong. I've never stolen, never done nothing. And when he treats me like I don't want to use the cuss words. Excuse me, a criminal? Come on, what is that? And I understand, hey, I understand. It's also suspicious for somebody to walk around on a public street and record your house. But there's nothing against the law to do that.
Now, it is a shame that this auditor seems to know more about the law than someone who has been in the job for over 20 years. Although the officers seem to agree with him on most things, they did not dare say a word against their senior.
If you're not I can't go into your yard and record into your window when you're naked. We know the law, the camera law. But
now that being said, if your actions do harass or annoy, that can be disorderly conduct.
Yeah,
there are.
But it's all disorderly. Yeah, and if you're just sitting there,
I'm gonna move to this point for you, okay, my man? Because like I understand where you're coming from. I really do.
I almost want to cry here. I was at Walmart in Minot, right? They were like, give me your ID. I said, no, or not my ID, but let me see your receipt. I said, no, I paid for my stuff. They're like, no, you didn't, you stole. Well, we're going to call the police. Okay. Like you said, you want my ID, I have no problem giving it to you. I don't know if it's going to, like, open up some can of worms where I can't go on a flight. I don't know. I've only heard, but I don't know. But you know what I'm getting at. And I'm like, okay, the cop's going to come. He's not going to give me a problem. Dude, the cop comes and totally treats me like a asshole. Like, oh, they know you stole. And for me, it's like, oh, you know. And I know you guys are just doing your job, but it didn't help. And I'm a dude that's never broke a law.
I can't speak for Minot PD. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Derek continued his painful rant, and he was rightfully pissed off at the deputy's behavior. It's reckless officers like this who burden their cities with costly lawsuits.
To be treated like him, and I'm not going to go, oh, well, let me go and file a claim. What's that going to do? At the end of the day, though, whatever. That's my view on it now. And when you say, and I hate when people go, oh, I know how you feel. You do not know how I feel. You do not know how I feel. I don't know how you feel. You deal with criminals all day. You deal with some innocent people. So it's like you get, I don't want to go off on tangents, but you know what I'm getting. Like I wasn't like, well, I'm not giving you. I wasn't like that. If I was like that, I could have been like, I couldn't see you guys going, okay, well, we're gonna do this. I mean, you know, I don't know. Should I go talk to a lawyer right now and be like, hey, I was in the court down there. They told me there's no court, and then they had me escorted out for no reason. I'll sue him. I don't care.
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can. It's.
You want to quick.
We're supposed to protect. Why is it that I've had 2 interactions with police in Minot, or not Minot, but North Dakota, and it seems like the protect and serve thing goes right out the window? You're not supposed to protect and serve one person. I thought you're supposed to protect and serve 2.
It is great to see an auditor taking a stand for himself against these corrupt officials. Once again, the officer tries to lie about the encounter, but Derek immediately shuts him down and keeps delivering his fiery speech.
All right, like I said, I'm just gonna get my camera and set it up here and try to get a camera of him.
Okay.
And
Just don't one thing.
No, and I didn't talk to him.
No, and listen to me. If confrontation happens, just call the police department.
Yeah.
Don't get confrontation.
No, I didn't, and that's why I didn't walk. I walked away.
And I know you didn't. I'm just telling. I just don't want you to.
I know. Yeah, and like I said, I know I said you were going to do a job. And I understand you say, oh well, it's suspicious to this. Okay, It might be suspicious for people to talk to themselves. People that talk to themselves think it's just fine. Yep. I understand you're just doing your job.
Yep. Like I said, we don't know what you were doing.
Checking on you.
Yeah.
And now we know.
Yep. And hey, for him to go, oh well, we want you, dude. He's not going to sit and treat me like I don't want to cuss, but I know it's my right to do so.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to treat me like a f***ing asshole and expect me just to sit there and take it from him. I'm an adult. He is not my dad. I'm not his kid. If I'm his kid, he can talk to me like that.
Right.
He is not going to treat me like that, and it's not fine. It's not okay. He was out of line. I was not out of line. I have a hard time with if somebody's yelling at me with being quiet, and that's why I couldn't.
Yeah, we can tell you're frustrated right now. We totally
I didn't
understand.
do anything. I just went in there to watch the court, which I can do by law.
Shortly after, the auditor left the courthouse, but only to file a lawsuit against the officers and Deputy Crone. He has since hired a lawyer, and the lawsuit is underway. Well, this deputy made a joke out of himself, but this next cop was rightfully punished and sentenced in court.
As sentence for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270.
Police officer Derek Chauvin was arrested and charged with the murder of George Floyd, an incident that sparked worldwide protests and riots. During the trial, another officer who had previously pulled over Floyd was called to testify.
You were the officer who approached the passenger side of the vehicle. You approached George Floyd on May 6th of 2019, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And you had your gun drawn when you approached Mr. Floyd, isn't that right?
Yes, I pulled it, yes.
And when you approached Mr. Floyd, he said, "Don't shoot me, man, I don't want to get shot," right?
Something like that, yes.
You told him to undo his seatbelt, correct?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
And he did that, right?
Yes, he did.
And then you said, "Put your hands where I can see them," correct?
Yes.
And then he put his hands in the air?
Yes.
And then you told him to put his hands on the dash, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was when you grabbed his hand and forcibly put it on the dashboard of the vehicle, correct?
Fallen, yes.
And you had your gun drawn the whole time you were giving commands, right?
Once I started ordering him and he refused to show me his hands, yes, eventually it escalated where I pulled my gun, yes, ma'am.
And he was awake, correct?
What's that, ma'am?
Mr. Floyd was awake. Was he awake during this incident?
Yes.
While you were interacting with Mr. Floyd, he didn't collapse on the ground, correct?
Wait a minute, what was the question? Can you speak up a little louder, ma'am?
While you were interacting with Mr. Floyd, he didn't collapse on the ground, correct?
No, he did not.
Well, the answer is stricken. The objection is sustained.
You were asking questions about what the other officers were doing, correct?
That's correct.
Your attention was focused on Mr. Floyd, correct?
Yes, it was.
And Mr. Floyd didn't drop dead while you were interacting with him, correct?
No.
The officer did not have much to say. Finally, after a long trial, the judge was ready to announce Chauvin's sentence. But first, he had a message for everyone in the courtroom.
I've read all the impact statements that were submitted earlier and listened carefully to all the input here today. And it is truly appreciated that you took the time to stay with this case and to provide me with input. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation and carefully considered all the facts of the case and the law, but my comments are actually going to be very brief because most of it's going to be in writing. I have a 22-page memorandum that is going to be attached to the sentencing order. And why am I doing it in writing? To emphasize the fact that determining the appropriate sentence in any case, and in this case, is a legal analysis. It's applying the rule of law to the facts of an individual and specific case. And that is why, as opposed to trying to being profound here on the record, I prefer that you read the legal analysis that explains how I determined the sentence in this case.
The judge assured everyone that the sentence is not based on any pressure or opinion from the public and was strictly according to the law.
It has been painful throughout Hennepin County, throughout the state of Minnesota, and even the country. But most importantly, we need to recognize the pain of the Floyd family. I'm not going to attempt to be profound or clever because it's not the appropriate time. I'm not basing my sentence also on public opinion. I'm not basing it on any attempt to send any messages. A trial court judge, the job of a trial court judge is to apply the law to specific facts and to deal with individual cases.
Finally, the judge laid the sentence, which ensured that the tyrant officer would never be able to see a day out of prison.
Mr. Chauvin, as to count 1, based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony under Minnesota Statute 609.19 subdivision 2 paren 1, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute section 609.04, counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses of count 1. As sentenced for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. You are granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You're prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis.
If this needs to be said, we just ask that it be executed forthwith.
Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC or whichever custody is currently holding him. Anything for the defense? No, Your Honor. All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.
But if you think this cop was wrong, this next evil killer will leave you stunned.
The detective said, side chick, that's his baby mama. And there's a possibility that boy is his son. I'm thinking we're supposed to be the good guys. He's supposed to be watching my back.
It is rare to see a police officer held accountable for their crime, but today we bring you some of the most shocking cases of corrupt officers who did the unthinkable and faced justice in court. Starting with a Border Patrol agent who made the most shocking decision of his life. On April 9th, 2018, Laredo police officers and Border Patrol agents were notified about a double homicide that had occurred in a park. The suspect was another Border Patrol agent, Ronald Burgos Avias, who was in his car when the officer stopped him. It wasn't until 2023 that this case was on trial, and the first responders were telling what happened.
The person that was using that car at the time was supposed to meet a Border Patrol agent at the Father Magnoble Park.
Okay.
The transmission that came in was the boyfriend's name was Anthony Burgos.
Okay.
When the radio transmission came up for Anthony Burgos, there was only one Border Patrol agent that was at that location with us. I had just seen him. I had never seen this person before. I see him. He's right near the car, and so I wave him over. I say, "Hey, come here." As he's walking up to us, the name says Burgos. So we look at the name. I'm looking at the name as he's coming over, and I'm just like, "Hey, what?" I think this is the person they just called over the radio. but they said Anthony, and I look at the first name and it's an R.
Ronald Burgos had just committed the ultimate blunder, and he was about to be taken to the cleaners by his fellow Border Patrol agents who wouldn't fall for his bluff.
Tells him, hey, what's your name, man? And he says, Ronald Burgos. And we're looking for Anthony Burgos. And radio transmissions are coming through, and so it's kind of getting a little hectic. Burgos approaches closer to Reyes. I'm walking next to him. I'm the only uniformed officer. So I'm right next to him, and he says, hey man, what's your name? And then Burgos says, Ronald Burgos Aviles. He only uses his last names. So then Rick's like, what's your name, dude? Why are you not telling me your name? What's your name? And he says, my name's Ronald Burgos Aviles. And he says, you're not telling me your name. Do you have an ID or something? And he's like, no, I don't have an ID.
The Border Patrol agent had just arrived after murdering his ex-girlfriend, the mother of his child, Griselda Hernandez, and his 1-year-old baby, Dominic Hernandez. It was appalling to see how Burgos reacted after doing something as heinous as this.
Yes, so once I took the belt off, I put it behind his unit, and then I patted him down as the unit approached us. So I patted him down. I located a phone on him and a driver's license in his shirt pocket.
Okay, so, and what did you do with those 2 items?
I turned over the driver's license to Detective Reyes, and the cell phone, I put it with his property that I had already taken, which was his Sam Brown. I put it in the back of his truck.
The prosecutor moved forward to show the court the dash cam video of the arrest of the Border Patrol agent. As you can see, the corrupt officer had no remorse on his face.
What is it that he's doing in that scene?
He's wiping his arms. It looks like he's cleaning something off. Or
What was it that he did right before he wiped his arms?
he licked his finger.
Officer Ronald Burgos was desperately wiping his arms and even sucking his fingers, trying to remove any trace of evidence. He had just used a knife to his ex-girlfriend and their young son, with the evidence plainly visible to everyone.
Come on, man. Oh yeah, he could have just told me straight up, man, so don't make him go through it. Embarrassing, big ordeal.
As the trial progressed, witnesses came forward, and amongst them was a key witness, another Border Patrol agent, Francisco Lara, who made a shocking revelation.
I look south and I see the silhouette of the young woman. So I completely forget about Mr. Burgos and I start running towards the victim.
See the victim?
As soon as I see the victim, I approach and I start yelling, like, "Señora, señora, despierta, estás despierta, ma'am, wake up." Because at this time, all I see is blood. I told my trainee, I call him Schmitty. I like, Schmitty, is that what I think I'm looking at? And I see the silhouette, and I immediately start running towards her. And that's when I tell him, like, I start yelling at her, "Estás despierta, are you awake? Do you have any gloves?" He's like, "No, I do not." So I say, "I don't have any gloves." And I asked my trainee, Schmitty, "Do you have any gloves?" And thankfully, being the great agent that he was, he did have a pair of gloves.
Burgos had devised a strategy, as moments after his ex-wife and son, he ended up calling the cops, claiming that a murder had been committed. Officer Lara explains how he tried to con everyone.
And I immediately checked for a pulse. I don't feel a pulse. I look at my fingers and they're covered in blood because I checked her neck area. So I don't feel a pulse. So I immediately see her left wrist. It's facing up. I check her wrist and again I do not feel a pulse. Right away I tell Mr. Burgos, sir, I think she's 10-7, which means that she's dead. And he's like, yeah, it looks that way. So I'm radioing everything into our station and I'm letting him know what I'm seeing. At this time, he's standing there. Not really, the supervisor normally takes control of the situation and radios in everything to the station. Once again, he's quiet. I'm the one relaying everything that I'm seeing to the station. I'm processing everything in, I'm taking it in. And I'm telling them what I'm seeing. And right away, I start telling the camera operator to start scanning the river. I tell him, scan the river, see if you see anybody going back.
Burgos had used his police training to carry out the crime in a bushy area, where Griselda ended up having 27 stabs, and baby Dominic had received 2 as well.
Next to the victim, I check her. Mr. Boulders is standing over here to, I guess on the other side of her. So I tell him she's 10-7, which means she's dead. Radio everything in. I told base 2, I think she's dead. They tell me take a step back, treat her as a crime scene. So before anything, I told my trainee, go to the gate and open it for the paramedics. He takes off. So before I take a step back, I'm surprised to see so much blood. So I grab my head and I'm like, where is all this blood coming from? I take a step back. At the time he picks her up, I could see the shadow of her face.
Officer Lara, a junior at the crime scene, could not believe his eyes as he watched his senior, Officer Burgos, handle the victim with shocking indifference and remained completely unfazed by the brutality of his action.
I get a phone call from my team leader. My team leader tells me, hey, we already activated the Border Patrol unions, the lawyers for you. Before you make any statements, we already got lawyers. And I'm like, we already made our official statement. He was surprised. He's like, oh, you did? I'm like, yes. He's like, before he hangs up, he's like, just so you know, there's a rumor saying that the dead woman is Burgos' side chick. I'm like, all right, 10-4, let me call you back.
It wasn't until detectives began investigating the murder that Officer Lara realized that the woman was Burgos' ex-girlfriend and the mother of his child. This revelation left him in a deeply emotional and shocked state.
We just heard her.
Going to question answer basis, Mr.
I'm good, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
That is exactly how everyone in the court felt, and we can only imagine the condition of Griselda's family. It turned out Burgos had committed this horrible act just because he was refusing to pay child support. Finally, after listening to hours of testimonies and getting evidence, the jury reached a verdict.
In cause number 2018 CRA 852D1, in the case of the state of Texas versus Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, the jury has returned a unanimous verdict. I'm about to read the verdict of this jury on punishment as to count number 1. Special issue number 1 on count 1. Whether there is a probability that the defendant, Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, would commit criminal act of violence that would constitute a continuing threat to society. Answer, yes. Signed by the foreperson. Whether taking into consideration all the evidence, including the circumstances of the offense, the defendant's character and background, and the personal moral culpability of the defendant, there is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment without parole rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer, yes. Signed by the foreperson of the jury.
The jury unanimously decided that Burgos would receive life imprisonment instead of the death penalty. Now, many might argue that the death sentence would have been a more fitting punishment for such a heinous crime.
You heard me announce the verdict of the jury with regard to both counts of this indictment. it is now my job to sentence you in accordance with that indictment, with that verdict. Do you understand that? After being found guilty by this jury of 2 counts of capital murder, and after giving us the verdict that they have just announced, it is my job now to pronounce sentence. As to count 1 of capital murder, and as a result of the sentence of the verdict of the jury, you will be sentenced on count 1 as to capital murder to a term of life without the possibility of parole. As to count 2,
Burgos was immediately transferred to the jail and is guaranteed to die there. The shocking encounter truly left everyone speechless, and it is even more saddening that it took 5 years for justice to be delivered to the poor victims' families. Well, nothing might top the brutality shown by this officer, but this next tyrant made another huge mistake.
Nothing in his hands, and he was shot twice
in 2011, during a routine traffic stop, Officer Osvaldo Villarreal fatally shot an unarmed Benny Herrera. The victim's family filed a lawsuit, but it took 5 years for the case to reach pre-trial, as Villarreal's attorney attempted to argue for qualified immunity.
It's a tragic case, there's no question about that. But Officer Villarreal was required to make a split-second life and death decision.
What required him to do that? It doesn't look to me as though he was the initiator.
The fact that Mr. Herrera, first of all, he had been acting erratically before the shots were fired, moved from a place of relative safety on the shoulder of the road into the roadway. He was skipping.
But if we're talking about Officer Villarreal, how much did he know about the prior behavior?
He saw all of that.
I have to say what you're saying is inconsistent with what I saw on his own camera. That is to say, the point at which he began to get close enough to see anything. Some of that earlier stuff was on the other camera, but not on his.
Officer Villarreal had shot the poor suspect only a second after he asked him to take his hands out of his pocket. And sadly, the attorney was defending this monster.
All at one point, his camera was turned on, but
his camera was turned on well before he got to the scene.
He testified in deposition that he saw Mr. Herrera on the side of the road, and then he saw.
Well, he can testify to what he wants to testify to, but I want to tell you what I saw on his own camera tells me that the early part of this he did not see, could not see. That was his intention, you say?
That was his intention, and that's in his deposition.
Again, I'm relying on what's on the videotape, and now this is in Officer Villarreal's car. I hear him say, "Take your hand out of your pocket," and I hear the gunshot almost simultaneously.
Exactly.
They cannot be separated by more than a second.
And that's exactly the time period when Officer Villarreal had to make his decision.
Shockingly, even the police department cleared Officer Villarreal's conduct, but the judge had another idea.
Here, Mr. Herrera was arguably complying with Officer Villarreal's order to remove his hand from his pocket at the time that he was shot. So how is it that we determine that we should grant qualified immunity?
Because qualified immunity allows for police officers to make mistakes. It allows for the possibility that officers will make mistakes in judgment, and that's exactly what happened here. Officer Villarreal had a choice to make. Do I wait and see whether there's something in the hand that could kill me, or do I shoot? And he made the decision to fire. We know with the benefit of hindsight, obviously, that was wrong.
The officer was about to face the consequences of his actions as the judge unanimously decided that his qualified immunity should be tossed.
As long as the historic facts are undisputed, the question of whether or not Officer Villarreal's actions were reasonable is a question of law. It's not a question that you give to a jury, because we don't want juries second-guessing the very, very difficult life and death decisions that officers have to make.
I agree, but at this stage, again, this is not an argument to a jury. For us to even have jurisdiction over this case, we take those facts. Yes. You're saying that as a matter of law, the shooting here was legal.
Yes, it was objectively reasonable. Well, not just those facts. Officer Villarreal knew that Mr. Herrera was a suspect in a domestic violence incident. Okay. He knew that he had a gang affiliation, that he was on parole, that he had a warrant out for his arrest. All of those things factor into
on parole. I don't remember on parole. They said
on parole, yes, and there was a warrant out for his arrest.
What do we know about what Officer Villarreal knew with respect to whether he was armed?
We know that dispatch told Officer Villarreal and Officer Miali that Mr. Herrera was not known to be armed.
The attorney continued to make bizarre and illogical arguments, but the judges swiftly rejected them, firmly believing that the officer should at least stand trial for his actions.
no, so the suspect had refused to put up his hands, had threatened the officers, and an officer believed that she saw something in the suspect's hand, saw him move his arm, and was worried he was going to shoot her. But yet we affirmed the denial of qualified immunity in part because the suspect had not brandished a weapon or spoken of a weapon.
I do recall that case, Your Honor.
The domestic violence incident was over.
Yes, and there...
So, I mean, how does that strengthen your case? I mean, that was, if you're arguing that it was an ongoing domestic violence, so...
It wasn't an ongoing domestic violence incident, but it was a warrant out for his arrest, that he had known gang affiliations, and all of those things factor into, am I afraid of this encounter, or do I think that this is going to be a perfectly safe encounter? And everything that they observed, or a lot of the things that they observed, heightened the situation to a point where it was objectively reasonable for the officers. Nobody disputes that, for example, that it wasn't objectively reasonable for the officers to have their guns out. They were going to do a felony stop. Domestic violence under California law is a felony. So they had their guns out. There's some question about whether or not there were other alternatives available. Well, in the split second that decision had to be made, you couldn't put the gun down and pick up a baton. You couldn't put the gun down and pick up a taser, assuming that Officer Villarreal even had a taser. I think there's testimony in the record that he didn't have a taser available to him. He had to make a decision based solely on what he knew at the time. And it's easy for us to sit in hindsight and say, well, Mr. Herrera didn't have a gun. Mr. Herrera didn't really pose any
I don't think
threat.
anyone here said that one time.
No,
I think what we're focusing on, again, the narrow standard we have to deal with here, and that's what we're dealing with. This is not a jury trial. This is not summary judgment. It's a very limited thing. No one here is raised about the fact you didn't have a gun.
I understand. The trial court did.
The plaintiff's attorney stepped forward and presented compelling arguments that further solidified the need for the officer to face trial, strengthening the case against him.
And that the officers perceived a heavy object in that pocket. That's...
First part, yes. Second part, a little less clear. But I think there's no question that he had his hand in his pocket.
Well, and both officers said it looked like he had something heavy in his pocket.
Okay.
All right. And then just before Mr. Villarreal opened fire, Mr. Herrera rapidly removed his hand and moved quickly, it seemed like, toward the officer's car. Why isn't that enough?
Well, because sticking on the undisputed facts, the officers had no information that any weapon was involved in a crime. They were specifically told he was not known to carry weapons. He had nothing in his hands, and he was shot twice and killed. We specifically asked the officers about their training, and they conceded, which is included in the cites in our brief, that deadly force is a last resort, only to be used in the direst of circumstances, only when no other reasonable measures are available. And
finally, the judges reached a conclusion and gave one last shut-up call to the defense attorney.
If everything goes bad for your client, that is to say, if we send it back, if the jury says no qualified immunity, and if the jury comes in with an award of some amount of damages, will your client pay those damages out of his own pocket, or will it be paid by his employer?
It should be 99.9% of the times it's paid by the employer. I don't see why it would be different.
Well, by statute, California statute says it's paid by the employer unless they're punitives.
Yes,
isn't that right?
That was what I was going to say.
So that doesn't say 99%, it says 100.
Well, I was going to say, if there were punitive damages, the city would have the option of deciding whether to pay those punitives.
And just when you think you have seen it all, this next police officer did the unthinkable and was sentenced to life in prison.
Count 28, the first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape, first degree, and punishment is set at 30 years.
This is Officer Daniel Holtzclaw, who was sentenced to 263 years in prison. Today we'll uncover the chilling story of his crimes and how he was ultimately exposed and brought to justice in the courtroom. Make sure to watch until the end, as the disturbing details will leave you stunned.
Do you recall putting your penis in her mouth?
I don't. I didn't see her.
I
didn't see her breasts.
It all began on the night of June 18, 2024, when Holtzclaw was heading home after completing his shift. That is when he conducted a traffic stop of a 57-year-old woman, Jamey Ligon. During the stop, the officer made her lift her skirt and pull her pants down before forcing her to perform oral on him. The very next morning, Jamey headed over to the Oklahoma Police Department, and as Holtzclaw came for his shift the next morning, he was greeted by detectives Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory for interrogation.
Tell me about that stop.
I was going westbound on Northeast 50th, probably a block just east of Lincoln. I see a red Grand Prix or Grand Am in my right lane, in the outside lane. I'm in the inside lane. The car swerves, and so at the time I'm thinking, okay, it's probably a drunk person, or maybe he got excited because they saw a cop. Made contact. It was a black female. Asked for license and insurance. Stated that she didn't have insurance. Gave me an ID.
Do you make traffic stops normally after work?
I don't, but in that case, I saw her swerve and whatnot, so
I mean, me, I don't.
Felt.
After I get off work.
I know. I mean, people, cops say that as have a, you know.
At the time of the stop, Holtzclaw had illegally turned off his GPS and patrol car computer, a clear violation of protocol. Detective Kim Davis quickly realized the seriousness of the situation and began investigating the alarming allegation.
Okay, so you got her out of the car?
Yes.
Okay. And put her in the back of your car?
Yes.
Okay. Any problems there?
No, she was cooperative. Didn't give me any problems or whatnot.
Did you run her on your MDT?
No, I didn't. All my stuff as far as that, because I didn't even call it in and say it was a traffic stop. My computer was off and everything as well.
Did you shut it off?
I just shut it off.
Work?
Yeah.
When you put her in your car, did you pat search her?
When I came around, I was like, lift up your shirt. Is there anything on you? Anything as far as your waistband or anything like that? She said no. And then I put her in the vehicle and went from there. Asked her everything.
Did your hands go on her at all?
I backhanded her on as far as the side.
Where on her body? Tell me. You backhanded?
Her waist, and the back portion. I didn't touch her butt or anything, but the back portion of the waist. And then she lifted it up like right here, and there's nothing.
Did she lift it up like this?
No.
Okay. So she never, like, went, ooh, nothing,
No.
exposed her breasts or anything like that?
She asked me if I was like, no, it's okay.
The Predator officer appeared quite calm and composed, having no clue that his dirty secrets were about to be exposed.
Saying it was the hip, the side, not the section.
What about right here?
No.
You didn't?
No, I didn't.
They can tuck a gun
That's
right here.
why I asked to lift it up.
Oh, so she just kind of showed you her belly?
Right.
Okay. Well, was there anything, an accidental touch, anything?
If she thought it, when I passed searched her, but it was nothing as far as I felt like I would do anything as far as anything like that. And for my safety, I just checked to see the weapons or anything.
And
to make clear, I didn't touch her butt, but the waist side and whatnot. If you would like me to do it for you to show you.
No, and I'm fine with it, and you have every right to do that. She's saying that you made her lift up her shirt, and when she lifted up her shirt, she exposed her breasts.
No.
You'll be shocked to learn that this wasn't the first time Officer Daniel Holtzclaw had abused his authority to intimidate and assault women. A multitude of black women soon came forward with similar allegations, exposing the true extent of this predator's crime.
She said, she said she was doing this. When you said, is there anything inside your bra? And she was going, no, I don't have anything like that. Did she do that?
Yeah, she did, but I didn't look or anything like that.
Right.
And then she was like, do you want me to show you? I was like, no.
She said when she said, do you want me to show you? You said, yeah, and she went,
woo. No, I didn't.
But could she have been, woo, flashing you? And now you don't want to tell me because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble?
No, when I told her no, I said no.
Then she didn't go, yeah,
No.
you know, because sometimes drunk girls are
having a good time.
Yeah, but I'm asking you if she flashed you anyways.
I didn't see her. I didn't see her
no
breasts. I didn't see her breasts.
What about pants?
Nothing in her pants as far as I could see. She was wearing tight jeans. So
She said she pulled them down.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see her pull them down?
I didn't see her pulling down pants. Did not see
You did not see her
breasts.
boobies.
No, I did not see her breasts.
So she's saying you shined your light on her.
I did not see her.
Where do you keep your flashlight?
The left side right here. Right.
Detective Kim didn't hold on to the questions and laid out the allegations made by Jamey. Shortly after, the other detective collected a swab to obtain Holtzclaw's DNA, as the woman had already submitted to a sexual assault exam.
Maybe a little bit over 5 minutes. Maybe like 5 minutes if.
So you're with her for 10 minutes. Did she say
Nervous.
why she's crying?
Says police officer and whatnot, and I'm just nervous because I got stopped by a police officer. So I'm like, calm down, everything's fine. And then, so I think maybe with the fact that she had no SDL, maybe she was nervous as well too. And then so.
Ralph, what time is it on your watch? I turned my phone off. So.
I've got 4:50. Sorry, 4:47. What I've got. So, do you usually do traffic stops on going home, or what was?
I don't. Like I said before, I rarely don't. I usually try to get home because I'm tired of them and shit.
Well, and are you a big DUI worker?
When I first started coming out, I did. But not really at the end now, to be honest with you.
I usually, if I see somebody swarming, I'm whoop, the other way.
And that's a lot of officers do too, so.
Well, Daniel, this is kind of one of the things that we kind of bring it in here to see how truthful you are.
Right.
Now, you need to kind of think of a few different things here.
Okay.
Okay. We pulled up a lot of video around that area after these allegations.
Okay.
Okay. She also had a SANE exam, which you know what that consists of.
Right.
There's a reason why we wanted your buckles. So if we go off the video and watch that, you're still going to stick with your story.
Yes, sir. As far as that,
Do you recall putting this in her mouth?
I don't.
Would you recall that if you did it?
If I did it, yeah.
The officers had also gathered some CCTV footage of the incident, and although nothing was clear, it showed that Holtzclaw's car had been there for over 25 minutes, which raised several red flags.
We knew you were on that stop.
Right.
We knew you were there. And we can watch a whole lot of actions being performed while you were there. Okay? And that's why she was trying to give you every out on the whole booby thing.
Right.
But any reason why your piece would be out?
No.
But if we say we didn't do it, we didn't do it, we didn't do it, and then the DNA comes back and says he did it, then we have a huge problem.
Right.
Okay. On the video, are we going to see her boobies?
Shouldn't see her boob. See her boob.
Okay. Are we going to see her pull her pants down?
I didn't see her pull her pants out.
Are we going to see your penis out?
Nope.
Are we going to see your penis go in her mouth?
No.
Are we going to get any DNA to that?
No.
Shortly after, Detective Gregory dropped another bomb on Holtzclaw. Just a month ago, 43-year-old Terry Morris told the cops the same officer had found a crack pipe in her car and had threatened her with jail. He then asked her to expose herself and give him oral sex.
Probably not necessarily going to remember the name, but her name is Terry Morris. Okay, black female. Supposedly you promised her a ride to the city rescue mission. This ring a bell?
No.
She thought you ran her for warrants. Clicking. Drove her around.
No. Name doesn't. I don't recall a name like that.
And she's claiming the same thing. The exact same thing. And here again, for whatever reason, things are pointing at you again. Traffic stop, not logged in, all that stuff. Okay. How about any stops of a person just walking, even just downtown? Anywhere downtown?
No. I don't, in Spring Lake, I don't go downtown. Besides if I go to Classen, not Classen, but Western and Maine to Valero's. To
Or the jail.
Or jail.
Or headquarters, property.
Right.
And you just don't remember doing any of those type of stops?
No.
Not in the last month or so?
No.
Do you run everybody that you come in contact with?
Majority of the time.
But you didn't run old girl this morning?
The 50th.
50th in Lincoln.
No, I didn't run her.
The other girl that he's talking about is kind of making the same allegations, and that's weird.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. I mean
that's
doesn't
weird.
look, yeah, it doesn't look good. So, no, I don't.
Both Claude denied any connection to Terry, but a pattern was emerging, targeting black, poor women with legal troubles, and the list was growing.
What to think? Would you take a polygraph?
Yeah, if you want to take a polygraph.
I mean, I'm trying to think of a solution. Do you know how slow DNA is?
I don't. I do not.
Slow.
When you went home, was anybody home?
My girlfriend was home.
Do you live with her?
Huh? No, she doesn't. She just stayed.
Did you get laid?
Messed around, yeah.
What's messed around?
I guess.
We were all adults.
We almost had sex, and she was tired.
What'd you do?
So my penis went around her vagina, and then maybe went a little bit in, and then she pushed me off and said, "No, we don't want to. I'm tired." I was like, "Okay."
That's kind of mean to let it get that far and then stop.
So that's when you got home?
That's when I got home.
The detectives then started asking the officer some personal questions, which would eventually help them in the long run.
How often do you have
about once a day, if that.
You guys have sex once a day?
Yeah.
How old are you?
27.
Well, yeah.
How much you jerk?
Maybe once a day.
So you sex once a day and masturbate once a day?
Yeah.
What'd you do when you got shot down at home today? Usually you got to relieve that.
Right.
I know.
That was before work. That happened before work.
You masturbated before work?
Yeah.
The detective returned to the topic knowing that she wouldn't be leaving soon. Despite the hour-long interrogation, Officer Holtzclaw remained calm and composed, showing no signs of desperation or anger.
If she goes like this, well, she's going to be looking right at you.
Okay. But it was just talking.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever get a hard when you were talking to her? Because she could have...
I don't think
these
I got...
pants don't fit the greatest,
right.
And if you get a... I'm going to be able to tell you got a...
Right, and I'm pretty positive I didn't get a hard...
Didn't get a hard on when you talked to her? Okay. Did your pants come unzipped, unbuttoned, anything while you were standing right there?
No.
CSI is processing your car right now.
Right.
And when we stepped out, they found some pubic hairs right in here. Could they be yours?
No, that's not. I didn't pull my penis out. I didn't do anything right there.
Did she?
No.
But do you think they could be?
No, it's not. No. Nothing of mine.
Your pubes couldn't be?
No.
Right there?
No.
There was now shocking evidence gathering against the officer, and by the end of this week, he would be facing rape accusations from 8 different women, including a 17-year-old minor.
You sure she just didn't flash you?
I can't. She did not. I want to say I can't recall, but I'm pretty positive she didn't flash me. She went like this, but nothing as far as I'm going like crazy looking.
Lifting the shirt.
No.
How far did she lift it?
When she lifted it up first, when I patted her down, she was like right here to her stomach line.
Did you see her belly?
Maybe some fat rolled or something. I don't know, but nothing.
Right, but I mean, could you see skin?
Yeah, I saw skin. Yeah.
You like older women?
I don't.
How old's your girlfriend?
She's 25.
Okay.
What's the oldest lady you've slept with?
Maybe 29.
You ever slept with a black woman?
I have. In high school, I have.
Okay.
Why would she make? Because when a woman says something like this, and they go through a sane exam, and they get, you didn't give her a ticket, so she's not getting out of a ticket. You didn't arrest her, because we get those when they go to jail. I've been raped. Work those stupid things because they think they're going to get out of jail.
Right.
The detectives had no reason to doubt the woman. She had nothing to gain and wasn't even ticketed during the traffic stop. The odds were stacked against Holtzclaw, and he had little to defend himself.
Anyway, those pubes are going to be yours.
No, they're not. Please.
I know, we're going to test it. It just takes, anyway, your skin cells are going to be anywhere on her mouth.
No.
Skin cells from your fingers.
No.
Did you touch her body anywhere other than with the back of your hand pat searching her?
Just pat searched her and that was about it. Didn't touch her face or anything. Right.
Because if the tests come back, you ain't coming back in here.
Because we have a woman that says about, basically being sexually assaulted.
Right.
Okay? And we're calling it by force and all that. Big difference between that and a hookup.
Right. Nothing else.
But when she was standing, did she try to pull her pants down?
No.
Did she do, you said she kind of did like this. Did she ever do anything down here?
No.
You said you take the lie detector test.
Right.
Do you have any extra job? Is there a time when you can't take a lie detector test?
No.
You're saying about 15-minute traffic stop. How long do you usually take on traffic stop, just on average?
Maybe 20 minutes.
It was shocking how Holtzclaw stayed calm, despite being asked questions that would anger most officers. He kept denying everything, hoping his badge would protect him again.
20 minutes. Now that's going to be some 800 time, right?
800, searching the car in detail, all of that.
Okay, so doing all of that, all the running, waiting in line, and even on a search. Now, the question I have is we got a lapse of time here, so I'm kind of get a better handle on where the time went. You're talking about 15 minutes, no 800, no running on the computer, you shut it down. And you said it was just a quick little search of the car. Where's the rest of that time?
Just talking to her.
About what?
Just see where you're going. Trying to get her to confess, are you drunk or not? Like, are you been drinking? Because I could smell it when I was in the car, but I can't really get it.
What if she said, yes, I'm drunk?
I didn't hear a lot of drunk questions, like how much
have you been drinking? Mainly it's just have you been drinking, trying to get her confessed, see anything inside that juice.
Okay, right there, those questions maybe took 40 seconds. 15 minutes?
And you said 5 at the car. So then we got 10 of a lot of questions.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you tell me I wasn't there. I mean, obviously I don't have any audio.
And that's what I'm saying. Roughly on a traffic stop take about 20 minutes.
Time was a key piece of evidence. Holtzclaw didn't issue a ticket or run her name, but spent 15 minutes talking to her. Something was clearly off, and the detectives were closing in.
How could you take 15 minutes on that?
Just talking. I must have been talking. So.
I can't see her wanting to talk if she's crying and asking if you're going to and all this. I don't see her being real forthcoming with conversation.
Whether my questions or whatnot, that's it.
I mean, you don't seem, I don't know how you were out there, but just kind of talking with you. I mean, you seem real laid back and everything like that. I've never got the impression of just kind of an angry type cop. We know some.
So you don't think 15 minutes was too long on that traffic stop?
No,
and nothing sexual on during that 15 minutes?
Nothing sexual.
Detective Kim left the room, leaving Holtzclaw alone for over 10 minutes. When she returned, she had proof of the first of many lies that he had told.
I just talked to Carrie.
Okay.
She said she was asleep when you got home and you did not try to have sex, and you did not have sex.
Did try to have sex.
She said you didn't. And I asked her, could you have been asleep? And you had kind of, no, and she said no. You did not try to have sex.
As much as I don't want to involve her, I tried to have sex with her and she was asleep. Carrie goes to sleep pretty early, about 9, 10 at the late.
Okay, but she would know if you tried. I'm a woman.
I know.
And my husband comes home in the middle of the night and I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been asleep. You said you twirled around her vagina.
I did.
And you put it in a little bit and then she said, I'm tired. No.
I did.
She would remember that to tell me.
Shoot, maybe.
She said you did not try to have sex.
The officer's actions really weakened his case, as he was now caught lying about the very first statement he made about that night.
I don't know what to say. I mean, because it just looks like I just caught you in a lie, and now I don't know what to believe.
I'm telling you.
I don't know what to believe.
Okay.
Because you tell me this, I go to verify it. She tells me the opposite, and now I'm wondering what you're telling the truth about.
Maybe because she doesn't know what the heck's going on.
No, she doesn't. I didn't tell her.
And I'm glad, but detectives calling her, any other officer asking her a question like that.
I know.
She may be scared. I'm telling you, I try to ask with Carrie, my girlfriend.
She is going to remember your wing twirling around her hoo-ha. You remember that. I'm sorry, I don't care how much of a sleeper you are. You remember because it pisses you off in the middle of the night and you go, are you serious? Don't bother me with that.
The interrogation ended with Holtzclaw being placed on administrative leave and ordered to surrender his uniform, badge, and gun. His uniform was immediately sent for DNA testing, a crucial step in the investigation.
Looks like you're gonna need to, unless you want to keep the shirt on. I don't know. I don't know if this shirt's gonna be big enough for you here. There you go, boy. Why don't you go ahead and get dressed then?
I need to tell you what's going on. It's crazy. I said I'm basically on my way home, and I'd like to talk to you. What's going on? It's crazy.
Shortly after this, Detective Kim tracked down 6 more women who made the same claims against Holtzclaw. One of them was identified as 17-year-old Adara Gardner, who claimed that the officer assaulted her on her mother's porch. Shockingly, her DNA was found on the opening of the zip of the officer's pants, which were taken in for investigation. This almost sealed the deal, as he was ultimately facing 36 charges, including battery, assault, oral and stalking.
1. Battery. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do upon our oaths find as follows. Defendant is guilty of the crime of battery and set punishment at 8 years. Count 2, procuring lewd exhibition. Not guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of battery. Count 8, defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral assault and punishment is set at 20 years. Count 9, rape in the degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree.
Holtzclaw pleaded not guilty, claiming the women were motivated by monetary gain. However, on December 10, 2015, after a lengthy trial, the jury delivered their verdict. A jury of 12 white people were selected, who found Holtzclaw guilty on 18 charges. The officer kept weeping throughout the conviction as if he hadn't done anything wrong.
Count 16, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Punishment is set at 16 years. Count 17, forcible oral sodomy. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy. Count 18, procuring exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring exhibition. Count 28, rape degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape first degree and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 29, rape first degree. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree and punishment is set at 30 years. Count 30, battery. Defendant is guilty of the crime of battery and punishment is set at 8 years. Count 31, in the second degree by instrumentation. Defendant is guilty of the crime of rape in the second degree and punishment is set at 12 years.
Holtzclaw was fired from the police department, with the chief of police calling it the worst abuse of power in his 36-year career. Leaving the courtroom in tears, Holtzclaw repeatedly said, "I didn't do this."
Mr. Holtzclaw, this jury finds you guilty of the various counts You will be remanded to the custody of the Oklahoma County Sheriff for formal sentencing set January 21st, 2016 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Your Honor, I'd ask to hold the jury.
All right, you have a seat.
Eventually, he was sentenced to 263 years in prison, and since then, both the Oklahoma Court of Appeals and the United States Supreme Court have denied an appeal to uphold the prison sentence. Well, this brings us to the end of this video. The case drew extensive media coverage and sparked protests across the city and outside the courtroom, reporting the poor black women who had been brutally abused. It was shocking how a law enforcement officer used his authority to commit such heinous crime. Thankfully, he will be spending the rest of his life behind bars. If you agree, please support us by liking this video. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out these moments when corrupt cops were caught illegally arresting innocent people.
Your vehicle is not like that. Sit down. No. You sit down. Get on the ground.